A very warm welcome to a brand new episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 with me, Ritwika Gupta. Tonight, we have an exclusive conversation lined up with Arundhati Bhattacharya, Chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India, talking about India's rapid growth, the role of MSMEs in India's economy, and the growing focus on the country's digital infrastructure and emerging technologies. Let's get started. Thank you, Arundhati, for joining us today. My first question is about India's economy, which has been notably resilient amidst the past year's global inflation and supply chain constraints. We have seen strong growth in the manufacturing sector, higher than expected agricultural output. What, according to you, are the macro factors propelling India to become the world's fastest growing major economy?
I think there are a number of factors that is fueling this growth. One, of course, is our demography. The fact that, 61% of our people are still below the age of 35. I think we have an average age of 28.2 at this point of time. I understand that by 2030, we'll probably have 1 billion people who will be in the workforce. And we'd probably be supplying 25% of the talent worldwide that is needed for various jobs. You also must remember that in India, we have a very large English-speaking pool of people. Plus the fact that we are graduating almost 1 million engineers per year. So if you look at the depth of the talent pool available in India, it's enormous. And that's one of the major drivers for growth. The other thing is the fact that, we are very quickly seeing an increase in the middle class people. And the understanding is that we are at about 31% now. I think the middle class is also growing by 6-7% per year. And we are expecting that in another 3 years, we should be at about 38%. By 2047, we are actually expecting that there will be more than 1 billion people that can be termed as middle class in India. Now, obviously, with so many people coming up the economic ladder, there is going to be demand. And demand is something that's very important if you're to drive any economy. So to that extent, the moment there is demand, there will be supply, there will be investment, there will be further growth. So you get into what is called a virtuous cycle. And powering all of this, behind all of this, I think, is the fact that our digital economy is growing really, really fast, powered by the digital public infrastructure, which is something unique. I don't think it is there in any other country. The biggest public infrastructure investments that we saw by a government was in the US when they launched the World Wide Web. And then, the Google Maps and stuff like that. But since then, whatever platforms have come in have been from private players in the US. In India, however, most of the digital platforms that are there are, as you know, fueled by the government. So this digital public infrastructure is underpinning the growth of our economy. And I think it's really lending it that acceleration that is needed. And therefore, I completely believe in what is said, that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for India to come up the growth path, to lift people out of poverty. And I think, to that extent, the stability that has been there in policies, in the way things are being executed, that has also contributed quite a bit to it. And therefore, we should be looking at India becoming the third largest economy by 2030 as predicted.
Yes, I'll definitely touch on digitization in a bit. But speaking of India's MSME sector, how do you think India's MSMEs will define the roadmap for India's Amrit Kal era?
So, India has always been a land for entrepreneurs. From many, many centuries, we've been a place where people have sort of realize that they need to depend upon themselves in order to really thrive. And that's why you see many of the industries that have come up from the grassroots, whether it be the IT industry, whether it be the pharma industry, whether it be the services, various other services industries. Most of these have come up because, the people with entrepreneurial ability have gotten over there and have started working. So if you look at the startup ecosystem, I think we are the second or third largest startup ecosystem in the world. And out of every 10 unicorns, one belongs to India. So to that extent, again, I believe that the MSMEs have a great role to play in our country. It's not going to be a few handful of very large corporates that are going to create a huge amount of employment in this country. It won't work like that. We are a kind of a distributed kind of an economy where, the MSMEs play a very big part in ensuring that they are bringing about innovation, in ensuring that they are employing 8, 10, 20, 30, going up to hundreds of people as they grow in size and in scope. And therefore, the MSMEs are something that we really believe will drive the growth of India. And towards that end, actually, in Salesforce, we have created what we call a startup community. So what we do is that this is a program like no other, because what we are doing is basically creating a community of like-minded people so that they can not only exchange ideas and help each other grow, but we connect them with our ecosystem to enable them to grow. So they are able to use our tools, they are able to come onto our app exchange with their products. They are able to create go-to-market plans together with us or with some of the other community members. We've just recently taken this program to Singapore as well, and many of our startups actually traveled to Singapore in order to, connect with the startup community over there. So it's a very vibrant community that we have developed. And as we have gone about developing this community, we have realized the power of MSMEs. Because really speaking, they span all kinds of industries. Whereas, we keep talking about startups as though fintechs were the only startups. That's not so at all. They're there in various areas. Absolutely, the number of industries and the number of segments in industries that they cover is mind-boggling. So to that extent, I think, MSMEs will definitely be the backbone of the country. We are making it easier, in various ways for them to access the right kind of tools. The government is working in order to ensure that they also get the right kind of access to capital. Again, you have a lot of the financial institutions now looking at startups in a totally separate way. Earlier, if you remember, we needed all of those things, like you needed a 3 years balance sheet, 2 years of which had to be profit making. Many of these rules for startups have really been, they have been made more amenable to what the startups really need. And therefore, I think they are the people that we really need to take care of to ensure that the growth potential of India is really realized.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12 in conversation with Arundhati Bhattacharya, Chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India. Emerging technologies such as AI, blockchain, they present immense opportunities for MSMEs, to streamline processes. But what I want to understand is how can MSMEs integrate these technologies into their business operations, in order to stay competitive in the digital era?
So, unlike what was thought of before, that there is a big bar to entry. With all of these types of companies that are coming up, and I am part of one such where IT is given as a service. So software as a service, you have platform as a service. So many of these are now not capital intensive. Yes, you still have to pay for them. There is an OPEX for it. But the CAPEX that is required, that bar has come down. And as you know, India is really, poor on resources. It's poor on capital. It is possible to do repetitive small amounts of expenses, but if you have to put in a huge amount of expense in order to get very high costing servers and things like that in order to start off your digital journey, is very difficult to undertake. So to that extent, I think the bar has been lowered as to how much of current technology you can absorb by ensuring that the capital expense that is required is lowered and taken away. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is look at the DPI infrastructure today. There are 3 or 4 main issues, or rather main planks to the main towers to that whole thing. One, of course, is the Unique Identification Authority of India. Today, I'm told that they are doing something like 80 million authentications per day. As you are aware, most of the Indians, they do have a unique identification based on biometrics. And this is absolutely primary to any economic activity, because what this allows you to do is it allows you to have a bank account. And it was very difficult earlier for us to do financial inclusion because we didn't know how to say that A is A and A is not somebody else. And the reason for that is there was no way of identifying the person. Today, because biometrics are unique to each person, we are able to ensure that when we say A is A, then that person is A. It is nobody else. Doesn't matter if the address has changed, doesn't matter if the spelling of the name has changed, but we know from the biometrics that this person is who we are saying is this person. Now, that has enabled this increase of bank accounts. And not only that, it has created a platform whereby much of the informal economy can now be formalized. And how is that happening? The fellow, for instance, who at the corner of your, the road that you live on, and who was probably selling something like a few, say, pan or pani puri or something like that. Now, that person had to be paid in cash. Similarly, when you went shopping, the guy who was selling you fresh vegetables had to be paid in cash. Today, all of them have a QR code, and you no longer need to carry cash because, the UPI, the platform, the Unified Payment Interface, that has actually, the Universal Payment Interface, sorry, that has given access to so many apps to ride on top of it. And these apps are so easy to handle so that nobody now really wants to take cash. The result of that is that same Pani Puri wala who couldn't establish that he had a particular cash flow every month now can actually show in his bank accounts that he is earning, say, something like 30,000 rupees per month. Now, with a 30,000 rupees income per month, that person is eligible for quite a bit of loan. And with that loan, then he can then increase his business in very many other ways, which earlier, if he needed to do, he would have to go to a money lender, and whatever margins he had would be eaten up by the money lender so that he would never be able to grow. He was always restricted to his small little piece of business. Today, because of the formalization of the economy that is based on the fact that everybody can have a bank account, everybody can ask for digital payments, and it's so much easier to do it than to carry cash around. Because of all of these, the formalization of the economy is happening at a very quick pace. And the moment the formalization of economy happens, true financial inclusion happens. Financial inclusion is not just opening of bank accounts. Financial inclusion is when the bank accounts give you the ability to leverage whatever you are doing, your business activity, in order to take on loans to make further investment, which in turn will help you to increase your activity and therefore increase the level of the amount that you can keep leveraging. Okay, unless you're leveraging whatever you have, you will not be able to go up the scale, so to speak. So to that extent, these two things are very strong pillars of the digital economy that we have created, and both of these are public infrastructure available to anybody who's willing to build on top of it. The third thing that we have also done is the DIPA, which is the data enablement and protection architecture. Now, what DAPA really does is enables individuals to exchange data in a very, very secure manner. So now the power of the data is not only with corporates, it's also with individuals. So the individuals can leverage their data. I need a loan. I will give my data to the lender so as to enable that lender to get a much better view of how what my credit standing is. That will enable me to get loans at a much cheaper rate than I was getting earlier. Earlier, as you know, all loans, especially in the retail segment, they were priced the same. So whether you are a good borrower or a bad borrower, you have a better way of repaying or a lesser way of repaying, the risk was the same for everybody, and therefore the prices were the same. Today, that can be differentiated, and therefore the pricing can be different. And as you drive this pricing, people also realize that the stronger they are with their credit ratings, the better will be the chances of getting loans at a far lower cost, which will bring about in them better practices, better business practices, in order to ensure that they have a better credit rating. So overall, as I said, all of this, the way that we are leveraging identity, the way that we are leveraging the payment system, the way that we are leveraging data, all of this then opens up the field to many other things that can be done across the board. Things like your open credit enablement network, which, as I said, gives the lenders far richer underwriting data and therefore mitigates risk and ensures a win-win proposition for the lender as well as the borrower. Similarly, the ONDC, the open network for digital commerce. So you don't need to go to very many places. You can access all buyers and all sellers through one kind of a portal. Again, this is a public infrastructure. So, there are very many pieces of this infrastructure that have been built up. And this digital public infrastructure, I think, is something which is acting as a real force multiplier to our growth engine and is really helping us not only formalize the economy, but to bring about that kind of financial inclusion, which enables people to ultimately get hold of the capital that they never had, get hold of the investments that they never had, and therefore, increase their business activities and therefore improve their own standards of living and their productivity and efficiency of their businesses.
The theme for our show this season is Powering Entrepreneurs for the Global Stage. Arundhati, tell us, what do you think needs to be done to support entrepreneurs in India to enter global markets, for MSMEs that want to expand internationally and to overall enhance cross-border trade?
So, globally, if we need to be a global company, you have to also understand that the nitty-gritties of business, they need to be taken care of. Only having a great idea and the ability to sort of sell it to people here in the country is not enough. You need proper awareness of risk. You need proper governance practices. You need to have very superior understanding of the fact that, a contract is a contract, and that needs to be honored in full. So to that extent, our understanding of how we run a company so that it can stand scrutiny in the global situation is something that we definitely need to improve. We have talked a lot about board governance and stuff like that. But, it is still not something that I think is totally internalized in Indian businesses, and it needs to be. Okay. So we have to have the right kind of practices, the right kind of business practices. Not only that, there is not enough attention given towards packaging, pricing. How do you package a product? That's very important. I've often said this. The first thing is, pehle darshan dhari, piche gun vichari. So you have to have stuff looking really good. And good meaning, it should have that professionalism to it, whether it be services or goods. You need to have that level of professionalism in order to stand up and be able to compete with global peers. Now, the fact of the matter is, if you're looking at going global, that is starting here and going global, you have to have the right kind of governance practices, the right kind of understanding of what the global markets require, and the right kind of ability to come across as somebody who's thoroughly professional, whether it be in quality, whether it be in timeliness of, adhering to contracts. All of these things have to become part of the company's DNA. That is the time when they can literally claim their place on the global stage. But this has to happen.
Well, those were some great insights. Thank you so much, Arundhati, for speaking to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.